You're listening to the Balanced Educator Podcast, episode number 136.
Welcome to the Balanced Educator. We're your hosts, Kaylee
and Josiane from EduCalm. Our intention is to equip and empower you to feel more calm, balanced, and joyful in all aspects of your life.
Hello there and welcome. We are so excited to have you here with us today. In this episode, we're talking about how using mindful movement in the classroom helps students manage their emotions and be ready for calm and focused learning. We talk about why movement breaks are effective and how to incorporate them into your classroom routine to support learning and simplify classroom management. This is a fun episode because Josiane and I are together today.
So exciting. It's been so long.
It has. These are always fun episodes when we get to just chat. It's like we're in the staff room just kind of chatting about what's on our mind.
So fun.
It's fun. So before we get into today's episode, we are excited to share this week's sponsor.
A community college professor who's been teaching for over 30 years, Ginny Haran, has seen students struggling more and more with college work and time management, despite all the advances in technology. Time management is the number one reason students drop out of college. She decided to teach her students how to use a paper planner to manage their time, and they said it was life-changing. By writing down their commitments and schedule by hand and being able to see their week, the paper planner tapped into visual learning and the brain activation that happens when we write, rather than tap. She also wanted to provide college success tips and mindfulness and gratitude prompts each week. So she created the Centered Student Planner, which includes a link to a private video channel with college success tutorials. The Centered Student Planner sold out last year despite the pandemic. It's an amazing tool for high school and college-bound students and a perfect graduation gift. Right now, they are offering a free printable booklet called The Go-To Guide to Finals when you sign up on their website at www.thecenteredstudentplanner.com. Again, that's thecenteredstudentplanner.com.
All right, let's get started.
Okay, so to start, we need to clarify something. Who is mindful movement for? Actually, let's start with what is mindful movement?
Mindful movement is just moving your body while paying attention to how that movement makes you feel. So it's just being aware and observing your experience of moving your body. So that is what mindful movement is. And then your second question, who's it for? Mindful movement is for everyone. I think a lot of the times when we talk about movement breaks and things like that in the classroom, we often think of the students that need a movement break to solve the problem of them having a hard time sitting still or focusing for long periods of time. But the reality is mindful movement and movement breaks are good for everyone in the classroom, and the whole classroom is going to benefit. Students, teachers, everyone is going to benefit if we take the time to do mindful movement in the classroom. So while a lot of the times we can think of mindful movement, or maybe we've been taught to think of movement breaks as an intervention for students that are, having problems in the classroom for a variety of reasons, whether that's behavior, whether that's academic, this can be proactive rather than reactive. And it can be helpful for students that we might not even notice need it. I think a lot of the times our students that are quiet can fall under the radar, and we might think that because they're not presenting signs of acting out, or
it's not visible to us as teachers.
It's not, maybe we don't see them actively not focusing, but they're in their mind not focusing. Maybe they're, thinking of something else while we're teaching. We can't tell what's going on in their mind. So mindful movement can help them to refocus, help them to kind of get rid of any extra energy they might need, or to lift their energy up if they're feeling low energy that day. So mindful movement can be kind of like a starting point to help all the students in our class manage their emotions, help them manage their energy levels, and get everyone ready for learning.
And also, I feel like it's important to mention, like, we as the teachers, we're walking around all day, going from one student to the next, moving, but in reality is they're mostly just staying in one spot, especially this past year where like the students had to stay in their own space all the time with the 2-meter distancing and all of that, right? And like, I feel like sometimes as teachers, we just forget, like, they need to move. It's just natural that we need to move around here and there. And if we're sitting at our spot all day, we're not getting that in.
That was an eye-opener for me when we switched back to online. And the second round of us teaching online this year at our school was we were actually staying at home. So the first round we were teaching online, but we were still physically going into the school and teaching our students who were at home. Second round, we are in our house all day. And I really noticed my need to move throughout the day. I really noticed how fidgety I was getting, how hard it was for me to focus. I taught one class after the other, and then I have my prep period after those 2 75-minute classes. And by my prep period, I was like, I can't anymore. I can't focus. I was really not productive until I started realizing, you know what, I need to move.
Yeah.
And then once I move, then I can refocus. I kind of structured my day and started building some mindful movement into my online teaching. And then also just taking a walk, taking a break between classes. And doing that with my students. Instead of starting right at 9:40, we would start at 9:50, and I would say, do what you need to do. Stand up, go get a snack, get water, take a walk, run up and down your stairs a few times, move your body, and then we'll come back in 10 minutes.
I mean, there's this whole movement in the workplace culture now that's like, not necessarily like people don't have their traditional desk anymore. Like even you and I in our businesses, right? We now have standing desks and a wobbly chair and whatever, just so that we can keep moving all day. So how do you think kids feel?
Exactly. Yeah. When you're an adult and you have a hard time sitting still, and I think you really said it right, that as teachers, we don't realize how lucky we are that we're walking around all day. We forget what it's like to just sit at a desk all day.
So mindful movement is necessary. Movement is necessary in the classroom. We have to incorporate it.
Exactly. And I think another thing to talk about too, to make sure that it's clear, is that mindful movement isn't just for little kids. Mindful movement is for high school students too.
I'd love to hear how you incorporate. We'll get to that part though.
We'll get to that. But I had some groups that loved mindful movement and asked for it every class. So,
okay. So tell me more about how mindful movement can help students.
So
take out the science gal in you.
I mean, first off, I think it's important to understand that like our bodies are made to move. We are meant to be working during the day. You know, we've evolved to either be walking long distances all day or working for our food, or, you know, like it's only very recently that the culture has shifted where we're just sitting still most of the time. Yeah. So, you know, when you're sitting still for a long time and you start getting achiness, well, it's, yeah. You might be like, oh, I have a bad chair. Maybe I need to like fix my chair. That's kind of the first response if you're achy sitting at your computer all day. And that might be partially it, or it might just mean that you've been sitting for too long. Your body isn't meant to sit for that long. You need to move. So our body is really made to move and to work throughout the day. So if we can build that movement into our daily structure, it doesn't have to be like an intense workout. It can just be gentle movements that help our body to kind of process things, digest, do all of the jobs that our body needs to do.
And on the mental health side of things, how does mindful movement impact?
Yeah. So, you know, as I've learned more and more about the biological, natural connections between our mind and body, I really shifted my understanding from what I thought things were like when I was, you know, in high school and in university doing a biology degree. I really thought of like the mind and the body as these two separate things. Physical health was physical health. Mental health was mental health, and they didn't have an effect on each other. But as I learned more and kept digging into how our body works, that's just not how it is. We are a whole being, and every part of our body is working together. Our thoughts, our emotions, our feelings affect our energy levels. They affect our perspective. They affect our outlook, and they affect our physical feelings in our body. I mean, think about a time where you're really worried about something, like something's coming up or there's someone that's sick in your family and you are really worried. You can physically feel that worry in your body. This isn't something that you're just thinking of. It's something that you're feeling.
So if let's say we're talking about this specific scenario that you just brought up, how can you use mindful movement to manage all of those emotions that are being filling your body up?
Yeah. So there's kind of a couple different ways that I look at this based on my experience and what I've learned and what I've been taught. And that's that one is that movement helps to process emotions. So I really like to think of our emotions as like a substance that has been poured into our body. So it's almost like, if you have a glass of water and you pour food coloring into it. It's like that food coloring now is in the water. It is part of it. You can't just make it disappear instantly, but what you can do is help your body to kind of like digest those feelings, to process those feelings. And movement really helps to make this happen. I mean, think about when you're really stressed or worried about something and you go for a walk in nature. After that, a 30-minute walk, you feel a physical shift in your body. Because as you're walking, your body is processing those emotion chemicals in your body and helping you to work through it. So by doing this mindful movement, we're really processing our emotions. And kind of the other side of this coin, another way that I like to look at this based on my understanding of the body and mind connection, is that a lot of our emotions are created by our thoughts. It's how we're thinking. So a lot of times when we're feeling stressed, it's because we're ruminating on something that might be coming up or something that happened before, and that thought just keeps looping in our mind. Now, when you're sitting still, it can be hard to like tell that thought to go away,
to process.
Yeah. And otherwise it's just kind of stuck on repeat. Now, if we do some movement, we are forcing our brain to focus on something else, to focus, especially if we're doing mindful movement where we're trying to focus on how our body feels, then we're practicing getting out of that thought loop, thinking about something different. And we kind of it's like a reset switch. It's like, we can switch on to a new dial and start moving on from whatever it is that we were stuck on.
Okay, so how can mindful movement in the classroom help to bring students back to calm and focus?
Yeah. So when we are doing an actual mindful movement practice, our students are physically paying attention to how their body feels and how different types of movement alter how they feel. So, if I am at the beginning, before we start our mindful movement practice, if I am noticing that I'm feeling fidgety, it's hard to sit still, I feel lots of energy, and I know I'm supposed to be learning, but I can tell that my brain and body just aren't ready for learning because I'm very fidgety. So that's where I'm at right now. Okay, now we're doing a mindful movement practice where we're taking deep breaths while we reach our arms up, and full exhale as we bring our arms down. And then how does that make me feel? Does that make my body feel less fidgety, more calm, or does it feel like it's getting the energy out or not?
Is there a shift?
Yeah.
So am I noticing a shift in how I feel, how my body feels?
Yeah. Or maybe now we're doing some gentle stretching and I'm recognizing, this feels good on my muscles. Okay, my muscles were quite tight. I didn't realize that they were tight. So as we're doing this mindful movement practice with our students, we're inviting them to become aware of their bodies and the signals that their bodies are sending them about their state of being, about their well-being. When we are stressed, our muscles get tight. So if we can teach our students to recognize that connection between how their mind is thinking and how their body physically feels, and then how these different types of movements that they practice in these mindful movement practices, how they make them feel, how that shifts their state of being. Well, now all of a sudden they have tools to be able to shift their state of being on their own. So they can start recognizing, at the end of class, wow, that was tough. My brain is feeling heavy from all the stuff that I've learned. It's recess now and I feel really energized. And afterwards, I know I have math class after recess. Well, maybe I should do some running at recess. Maybe I should make sure I'm actually doing an activity that gets this energy out so that I'm more ready to learn after. So we're giving them this ability to be self-aware of how they feel and then know what they can do to shift their state of being.
Now, I'm going to sound like a broken record when I say this. How often do we say this on the podcast? But if we want our students to do all those wonderful things that you just said, we have to do mindful movement. How often, Kaylee?
It has to be a routine.
Every
and repetition.
Day. Repetition is key. How often do we say it? But it's so true. Kids will never use movement as a strategy if we're not explicitly teaching them and also practicing daily.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yes. And I feel like in a lot of classrooms, teachers use programs like the 5-point scale or zones of regulation or whatever. There's a whole array of them out there. But basically, these programs teach students to recognize emotions. Often what we see in classrooms is that we teachers take the time to teach our students. This is especially obviously in the younger grades. We take the time to teach them to recognize their emotions and how to recognize them in other people and all of that. But then we kind of forget the application side of things where it's like we need repetition, routine, practice daily to apply strategies that can help with this shift in emotions and behaviors.
Yeah, like if you have a student that can recognize, oh, I'm in the red zone right now, so I'm really not ready to learn, but you aren't giving them tools to allow them to shift into the zone where they're ready to learn. Then,
or you're even giving them tools, but it's like a list on your board or something, but you don't actually do them every day.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like if you should be exercising every day, and maybe you have a list of exercises that you can do on your desk, but if someone isn't like, okay, now is the time to exercise, you might not do it. If you don't have a routine in your schedule where you're like, this is the block of time where I do exercise, then you probably won't do it. So it's the same in the classroom. As you said, just having a list up on the board isn't going to get our students actually doing it, but giving them time where we're guiding them through strategies that help them to manage their emotions.
Yeah, practicing daily, often, repetition, until it's this like innate strategy that they can pull out when they know they need it.
Absolutely.
On their own.
Yeah.
Now, thankfully, that is exactly what our program, our online program for the classroom, EduCalm Classroom, does. It is literally the application, the daily, repetitive application of strategies to help students manage their emotions and behaviors. And so that they learn to internalize these strategies and then to apply them independently after that.
Absolutely. And it's just a structured way that's ready to use for you. You don't have to be the expert. You can follow along with them. And you can do mindful movement with them, which is great. And when it's structured like this and ready to use, it's so much easier to incorporate into your routine and have it just as part of your schedule. So, what would this look like in a classroom to actually apply this routine?
Okay, so number one thing, and you just said it, is to literally put it in the schedule, because if you don't put it in the schedule, you probably won't do it, right? Isn't that the reality of classroom just the chaos.
Yeah.
I don't even know like what word is correct there.
If I don't I literally write down submit attendance. Like if I don't I write it down. Like otherwise I'm going to forget. That. Like it just takes one like, ooh, piece of candy. Like someone mentioned something, we go off on a tangent and then I've forgotten the routine. Yeah. So have it written down.
Put it in the schedule. Whenever works best for you, but make sure that it's there. Otherwise you'll forget. Now, it can be really simple. Like this mindful movement thing sounds a lot more complicated than it is. Really, you would take 2 to 5 minutes max. First, you get students to just check in with themselves, like just noticing how they feel, doing like a quick body scan, are they feeling fidgety? Are they feeling calm today? How are they feeling today? So just checking in with themselves and then getting them to do movement. And that can be so simple, right? Like, okay, fold over, touch your toes, sun breathing we always do where you have your hands out to the side and you inhale, bring them up, they touch above your head, exhale, bring them back down a couple times. If you know yoga, you could do like sun salutations or you could do cat-cow movements, like whatever, right? Yeah. Like we all know how to pull those things out of our little toolbox as teachers, right? And then once they've done that a couple times, you do, 1 or 2 movement exercises and then just getting them again to pause, to check in with themselves, see if there's been a shift. That's
simple. Notice, do an exercise, notice again. Pay attention to if there's a difference.
Simple. I'm like, I don't have much else to add. Yeah. But in high school, do you have anything you want to add to that?
So in high school, it definitely depends on like the group and the space that you have. Sometimes I have groups that like just have lots of energy and love movement. So we'll do like a full movement practice where we're watching one of the videos from Educom Classroom. So it's a 5-minute video and the video is structured in that way. So we start with how are we feeling, breathing deeply to just check in with ourselves. Then there's a variety of different videos that kind of aim towards either raising your energy or getting your energy out or calming.
Should I say what they are?
Yeah, might as well list them.
Yeah, so there's I Am Educalm to bring calm back into the classroom, which is one I have to say I haven't used that much this school year just because of the type of, group I have. I Am Flexible, so lots of stretching.
That was one of our go-tos this year. My students really liked the I Am Flexible one. And there's always be giggles because they'd be like, there'd be a couple that can like barely sit cross-legged. There's
and others that are like folded over themselves 7 times over. Yeah.
And it's all part of the fun. It's like the point of this is to like take a bit of a break, check in with ourselves, enjoy moving our bodies. So don't feel like you can't let the kids like have fun and laugh during this. It's part of it. Or
sometimes they'll chat a little bit, like whatever. Yeah. I Am Balanced.
That's another one that my students really loved.
Yes. And all of these have like little lessons too, where it's like in real life, how do you find balance, right? And then one I used a lot this year because I'm teaching grade 6 this year and, they show up to school like half asleep. Like sometimes it's hard to get a word out of them in the first thing in the morning. We would sometimes do I Am Energized. So to like bring up the energy in the class, which I know usually we think of classroom management as the opposite, right? And then there's also I Am Strong. And, it may or may not be out by the time this episode comes out, but we have a whole new movement unit that we will be or have added to Educom Classroom called Chair of Movement. So do you want to talk a little bit about that one?
Yeah. So basically, you and I were using these movement videos so much in our own classrooms that we're like, let's add more movement videos.
And other teachers have been asking.
Yeah. So we were like, okay, yeah, let's do this. But wouldn't it be great to have some videos where you can do the movement just sitting on your chair or just right in front of your chair? Because sometimes you just don't have a lot of room in the classroom.
And I feel like this year too, like my kids were so like quarantined to their space. So it's like you can't you can't just let them like all willy-nilly around the classroom, right? So like that's where the idea of this chair movement stemmed.
Yeah.
So what is it though, exactly?
So basically there's 3 different videos that we have. Again, each of them kind of aims for a different outcome. So we're kind of guiding them.
Energize, focus, and shake it out.
I love shake it out. I'm so excited to try that with my students. Basically, you like stand in front of your chair and you're kind of like jumping and just shaking your body. I can see getting a lot of giggles after doing that.
Yeah, totally. So the shake it out theme, I feel like we just need to talk about that one because it's kind of unique, but this one was built, and this is like everything we put together, all the content we create is always based on feedback from teachers who use the program. So when they ask for things, we create things. It's awesome. But the whole point of this shake it out thing is like, you know, when your students have been like focusing and working hard on like a project for like half an hour, depending on the age group or whatever. And it's like, all of a sudden, you know, it's like,
it's too much.
Yeah. Or like you need to snap out of it almost.
Yeah.
So the whole point of that one was just to like, you know, shake it out so that we can like reset, start over and move on. But it's like, sometimes you just need that, right?
Yeah, like shaking the cobwebs off or like just really getting the blood flow back into different areas of your body. And it can really
switching things up quickly.
Yeah. And the thing that I love about that too is that it can work, like it really works both ways. If you feel a lot of energy and you shake it out, it feels like you help to get out some of that energy. Mm-hmm. But if you feel low energy, shaking it out seems to bring up your energy. So it really like, no matter where you're at, it helps you to find a happy medium.
So good. Yeah. I'm so excited for that one in the classroom.
Woo. And then what were the other ones again?
Focus and energize.
Yeah. So very clear in the titles what the goals are.
Yeah.
Help us to refocus and be ready for, you know, that would be one that I'd love to do before if I know that I have a pretty intense lesson coming up and I'm like, okay, we need to focus here. Start with this mindful movement focus video, and then we get into the lesson. So it's like warming up the brain and body to be ready to learn, or mindful movement can be something that you do after you've just gone through an intense learning thing and you need to reset.
Yeah, and these videos are 3 minutes, so they're a little bit shorter than the other unit, and that was kind of the idea, is that they can be, like, we want to have it in our schedule, of course, and also we also, as teachers, just notice, okay, now we need a movement break. And these are also perfect for that because they're just a little bit shorter.
Yeah, exactly. So like the way that I used mindful movement in my high school classes, I think I like started explaining that and then didn't quite finish, but I really based it on what the students were asking for because they're a lot older and a lot more aware of what they need. So I would often start the class by saying, do you want to do an audio guided mindfulness practice or do you want to do a mindful movement video? And then we would go with what they said, except sometimes if I would see that they're all about to fall asleep because it's a grade 12 class and it's 8:30 in the morning on a Friday. And they're like, oh, we just want to do an audio. I don't feel like moving. And I can see that they're going to fall asleep and not be focusing. Then I would say, too bad. I'm vetoing this. We're doing a mindful movement because you guys need to wake up.
Yeah, I know what you need.
Yeah.
I do the same thing. Like once I've introduced them to the videos, I always tell them, like, if you guys feel like you need a video, let me know. And I was surprised this year too, because grade 6 is really that age where they start to, you know, look around. Are they doing it? Are they doing it? Like, you know?
Yeah.
And no, they were really, really into the videos. They ask for the videos often.
Awesome.
So
yeah. And we did all the videos and then my students would have their favorites. So like,
and then they asked,
we went through all of them and then they'd be like, oh, can we do I Am Balanced or can we do
They know what they need.
They do. So, and I think that, we should definitely make it a practice of asking for their feedback because sometimes we know what they need, but it can really help to have their say to help them know what they need.
And they're more likely to engage anyway if they think it was their decision. If they think it was their decision.
Or you can do the classic, like, okay, let's do a mindful movement video. Do you want I am energized or do you want I am calm? And then, you know, you're giving them 2 options, but they're already options that you have shortlisted.
Yeah, perfect. So smart. So mindful movement is one theme of many, many themes in Educalm Classroom. There's so much goodness in there. There is video and audio for the entire school year. No prep. You just press play. It is amazing.
Makes it so easy to make a routine. It's funny, lots of people often ask me, do I actually use the program in my own classroom since it's I created it? And I'm like, yeah, I play the videos. I could teach it myself, but I prefer to play the videos or play the audios because it just creates that really consistent structure. It's ready to go. The whole program is created to build on each other. It's sequential.
There's repetition. There's a routine.
So it really makes sure that you're seeing changes in your students over time because things are being repeated that need to be repeated. And it's
all about that application of the strategies.
Exactly. So you really see a lot of growth in your students by the end of the year by listening to the audios and watching the videos.
You can try it for free.
Yeah.
What is there in the free trial, the Educalm Classroom free trial?
So the Educalm Classroom free trial, that's a bit of a tongue twister. It has videos and training and resources to help you as the teacher get started so that there's no question marks of like, okay, how do I use this program? How do I structure it into my day? Those kind of things. There's a training video in there that'll walk you through all of that. And then there's the first unit of the Educalm Classroom program, which is called Introduction to Mindfulness. And that comes with 2 and 5 minute mindfulness audios. So these are going to lay the foundation of a mindfulness practice in your classroom with your students. And then there's also lesson plans, printables, really anything that you could need to be able to deepen this with your students, do activities on it, and really get started with that base of mindfulness in the classroom. If you really enjoy the program and you want more audios and you also want videos so that you can use mindful movement, then you can sign up for a full year subscription to Educalm Classroom, and then you'll get access to all the themes. And as Josiane said, you will have content for every day of the whole school year and probably more.
Yeah, too much. Too much for 1 year, which is fun because then you get to like do things for specific groups when you realize what they need.
Exactly.
So good.
Yeah.
Okay. So where can we try Educalm Classroom for free?
Go to educalm.com/free. So that's educalme.com/free, or just go to educalm.com and you can find out lots of information about our program, our offerings, and how to use the program and all those fun things.
And if you enjoyed this episode, make sure to share it with a friend or a colleague that would get value from it too.
Now go do some mindful movement.
Yes.
Have a great week.
Bye.